What's the real difference between just a gut feeling and a cold, hard fact? It's not what you might think. It's not about wearing a lab coat or knowing a bunch of crazy equations. Nope. It's a way of thinking, a really powerful way of thinking that honestly, anyone can learn. So let's dive into the ultimate guide to thinking like a scientist. So, where does it all begin? Well, it all starts with curiosity. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're just out minding your own business, maybe having a picnic, and then a question just pops into your head. Wait, why is the sky blue? Or, what are these green dots growing on my bread? That impulse, that need to question the world around you, that's it. That is the spark for all of science. Okay, so you've got these questions, now what? That leads us straight into part one. What exactly is science anyway? When you boil it all down, this is what it is. Science is the systematic study of, well, pretty much everything in nature. The key word there is systematic. It's not random guessing. It's a process, a toolkit for building real, reliable knowledge about the world, one piece at a time, by looking closely and, actually testing things out. And the really cool thing is, you can use this toolkit for everything. I mean, from biology, the study of life itself, and chemistry, what everything is made of, all the way out to astronomy, the study of the entire universe. They might seem like different subjects, but they're really just different branches on the very same tree, and they all grow from that one single root, systematic investigation. But, and this is a really important but, for all its power, science isn't a magic wand. It can't solve every problem. It's a specific tool for a specific kind of job, and that means it has limits. There are some questions science just can't touch. Think about it like this. Science can tell you, down to the last detail, how nuclear power works. It can measure the risks, it can measure the energy output, no problem. But what it can never, ever tell you is whether we should use it. See, questions about morality, about values, is something good or bad, those are outside of science's job description. For that stuff, we need to turn to things like philosophy, ethics, and our own judgment. All right, so for the questions that science can answer, how do we actually go about it? Well, that brings us to part two, the scientific playbook. So here's the big one, right? How do you test an idea fairly? I mean, if you've got a hunch, a hypothesis, how can you be sure that your experiment is actually fair and that the results you get really mean something? And this picture just perfectly sums up the whole idea. Just look at the experiment on the left. Okay, so the ramp is steeper and it's made of a different material. So if the ball goes faster, what caused it? Was it the steeper angle or was it the slicker surface? You have absolutely no idea. But now look at the one on the right. The only thing they changed was the slope. Everything else is the same. Now that is a fair test. You know exactly what you're measuring. And that really gets to the secret of the whole thing. It all comes down to managing your variables. A variable is just anything in an experiment that can change. The trick is to figure out all the things that could change and then lock them all down, keep them the same, except for the one single thing you actually want to test. So here's how scientists keep track of them. First, you've got the independent variable. That's the one thing you choose to change. Then you've got the dependent variable. That's what you measure. It's the result. It depends on what you changed. And finally, the controlled variables. That's literally everything else. All the stuff you have to work hard to keep the same so they don't mess up your results. All right, so this whole playbook isn't just about thinking, it's about doing. And a huge part of that is being practical and safe. So let's jump into part three, gearing up in the lab. You've probably seen symbols like these on chemical bottles. They are not suggestions, trust me. They're critical warnings. Flammable means it can catch fire easily. Oxidizing, it can make a fire burn much more intensely. Corrosive, it'll eat through stuff, including you. And this last one, well, it can mean anything from irritating all the way up to toxic. You gotta know these, and you gotta respect them. And while we're on the topic of safety, let's talk about fire. It's actually super simple. Every fire needs exactly three things to exist: some kind of fuel, oxygen, and enough heat. That's the fire triangle. And here's the powerful part. You don't have to get rid of all three. Just take away one of them. Cut off the oxygen, cool down the heat, or remove the fuel, and poof, the whole thing falls apart. The fire goes out. You know, that same kind of discipline, that same attention to detail that we use for safety is just as important for our final section, which is maybe the most powerful tool a scientist has. Part 4, the power of measurement. I mean, why can't we just trust our senses? They're pretty great, right? But they can also be really unreliable. You might say water is hot. I might say it's just warm. You might think a box is heavy, but to someone else, it's light. See, it's subjective. Measurement completely removes that problem. It gives you cold, hard numbers, objective evidence that anyone, anywhere can check for themselves. And I absolutely love this quote from Adam Savage because it just nails it. The key difference between science and screwing around is writing it down. That's it. That's the secret sauce. That simple, disciplined act of recording your measurements is what turns just messing around into actual data. It's what takes you from, that's weird, to a real investigation. Okay, but here's the catch. Just because you're measuring something doesn't mean the measurement is good. So let's use a dartboard to talk about two really important ideas, accuracy and precision. Let's say each of these darts is one of your measurements. In this first case, they're all over the board. They aren't grouped together, and they're nowhere near the bullseye. This is not accurate, and it's not precise. It's just a mess. Now let's look at this one. All your shots are grouped really tightly together. That's precision. It means your measurements are consistent, they're repeatable. But look where the group is. It's way off in the corner, nowhere near the bullseye. And this is so important to understand. You can be incredibly precise and at the same time be completely and totally wrong. Okay, this next one is a little trickier. The shots are all spread out again, so they're not precise. But if you were to find the average spot of all those darts, it would be right smack in the middle of the bullseye. That's what we call accuracy without precision. On average, you're right, but any single measurement you take is probably way off. And finally, this. This is the goal. This is the gold standard. All of your measurements are in a tight little group, that's precision, and that group is centered perfectly on the bullseye. That's accuracy. This is what science strives for, data that is reliable, repeatable, and correct. So when you put it all together, that initial spark of curiosity, the discipline to run a fair test, the focus to take careful measurements, you start to see that science isn't just a class you take in school. It's a mindset. It's a powerful, proven toolkit that we can all use to make sense of this complicated world. You know, this way of thinking is what gave us the answers to yesterday's biggest questions. It solved countless mysteries and completely changed our world for the better. So really, there's only one question left for you. What question will you investigate tomorrow?